All Blacks in Argentina getting the Rugby Championship back underway this Saturday, folks. It is from Christchurch, interestingly enough. We've not seen a test match in Christchurch for a number of years. They've had, obviously, with the earthquake stadium issues down there. But yeah, All Blacks Argentina. Every side in the competition is 1 win, 1 loss. If you want to look at the table closely, the Argentinians are actually on top of the table with their bonus point win over the Wallabies in their last game. And the All Blacks are at the bottom, but their recent record over the Pumas is pretty good. We'll go through some squads, some predictions, some stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how this may be going to go. Remember, if you guys are in the USA, these games are on Flow Sports, and they've also just added the top 14 to their catalogue of content as well. So happy days. If you're a Flow Rugby subscriber, you're getting heaps of rugby. Down in the description if you want to sign up. So, yeah, like I mentioned, every side's on 1-1, and for a change, the All Blacks have pretty much gone with a stable lineup. This doesn't usually happen under our man Fozzie, but he's named a virtually unchanged lineup with just one injury, meaning there is a change with Beauden Barrett not being available. So to go over it, it's de Groot, Taukei'aho and Lomax as the front row, and Lomax in particular. I mean, de Groot and Taukei'aho are two kind of young guys who've really stepped up to the plate in black, but Lomax, he's been much criticised, including by me. But in that last game particularly, he did really well. So pleased for him to get another crack. Scotty Barrett and Sam Whitelock continue on in the second row, and they were both really impressive. Whitelock very disruptive at line-out time. And then the back rows, Frizell, Kane, and Savea. Is that the most balanced back row we've got at the minute? Maybe so. It seemed to work better than with Akira at 6. Still love Akira. He is on the bench. But Frizell is the man for now. Remember, Blackhead is obviously still injured. It would be nice to see him have a crack too, but he's got bad luck, that guy. Smith and Mo'unga continue on at 9 and 10. The Bodie versus Richie debate, not a thing this week with Bodie picking up a neck injury in training. So it's a good chance for Mo'unga to go back-to-back. He was pretty impressive in that last game, even if he did, I think it was his pass that got intercepted by Big Peter Steph. Havili and Rieko continue on in the midfield as well. Remember, Goodhue has just had to go, or been announced that he's going to go for knee surgery, so we're not going to see him back anytime soon. ALB's still out. So these guys are certainly getting a chance to build some chemistry, and Tupaea's on the bench too, so he's another one who's been getting some minutes. Clarke and Jordie are the preferred wing duo, the kind of quick man and the big man. And then Jordie Barrett at 15 has been our kind of main bomb diffuser with those high balls. So, yeah, man, the exact same starting 15, and as I mentioned, it's only Bodie from the bench that's missing, so it's still Taylor, Bauer, and Newell. Newell did really well in his first game as well, so congrats to him to go back-to-back games and get a home game. It's nice for his family for sure. Tupou, Vaa'i, Akira, Ioane, the other two forward replacements. Christie, Tupaea, plus Stephen Perofeta. Finally, after being in the All Black squad for quite some time now, finally gets himself a crack. There's no chance for Roger Tuivasa-Sheck just yet. Remember, he's had a little bit of time off the bench against Ireland, but yeah, he's been playing some NPC. So, yeah, we'll see if the All Blacks can do a job here. Maybe they shift things up for the next game, but I don't know, man. Just a little bit of building some continuity, getting some combinations. I feel like, yeah, that's just as important as depth building. It's that balance, right, of playing the same team sometimes, but also giving guys a crack. There's no perfect way to do it, but it is nice to see them have 2 games in a row for sure. For the Argentinians, you're looking at a more rotated lineup. Cheika did say he wanted to see some new combinations. Some of the guys who played in that last game, like Imhoff, like Krevi, like Titas Chaparro, some of the senior guys, they didn't even travel, so they were never going to be selected in this game. And then a few guys have been brought into the squad, and also Codella, the big tight head prop who was really impressive in the last game, he picked up an injury. I think he's out for the Rugby Championship, so back with his club he's picked up an injury, so that's kind of unfortunate news for Argentina, but builds a little bit of depth in the front row, which is always a bit welcome. Gajo, Montoya and Sclavi are the front row, so Sclavi's the only change there coming up from the bench. He was the substitute, came on for I guess just under 20 minutes in the last game. Gajo, though, it's all about him. The double try-scoring, ball-running prop. You're going to love that guy if you haven't watched him. He is an absolute fun prop to watch. I mean, He's going to break all kinds of try-scoring records, surely. And Montoya is still captain, turnover king, tackle master. And their line-out's been operating really well too, so he's a key part of that. Alemano and Lavanini are the locks, so no changes there. Petty is back in the squad, and he is named on the bench, but there's no rush to chuck him in to the second row just yet. Martin Gonzalez, that's Juan Martin Gonzalez, Crema and Matera, that's the same back row. And I do think there's a fair bit of good balance between the three of them. Crema's a big unit. Matera's got the silky ball skills and ball carrying, and Gonzalez is just a tackling machine, so they really do work together well. Bertrano and Carreras, the same 9-10 combo as the last game, so good to see them get a bit of chemistry because the number 9 jersey has been kind of hopping around a wee bit too. Orlando comes into the 23 member. De La Fuente pulled his hammy in the try scoring effort in that last game, so he's not considered. So it's Matias Orlando alongside Matias Moroni, so it's the two Matias boys in the midfield, both pretty senior guys, so you don't lose much by bringing in Orlando. Sinti was on the bench for the last week. We usually see him in the midfield, but he's named on the left wing. Boffelli's on the right wing, and then Malia is there at fullback. So, yeah, it's largely the same starting 23 with 15 with a couple of changes, and then more of the changes come on the bench. So you got Cecino comes in for Crevi, Vivas is there, Bello is there, so it's all new front row replacements. Petty likewise, and then Grondona too. So every one of the forwards I don't think played in the last game. Cubelli and Albanaz are still there, and then Santiago Cordero kind of covers the outside back. So yeah, it's a real mixture for the Argentinians, and like I said, Cheika said he wants to see new combinations, so he's certainly going to see a bit of that. In terms of individual stats, it's interesting to see that Rieko, Ioane and David Havili are two of the top guys for defenders beaten in the entire competition, so they're certainly doing a wee bit of carrying. Rieko a bit criticised in the first game against the Springboks for not passing it a bit more. But yeah, we'll see what we can get out of this midfield combo. I don't think any All Blacks fans are absolutely sold that this is the best midfield option the All Blacks have got, but as I mentioned, they're getting the crack to show us what they can do. For the Argentinians, Alemano is the top Argentinian line-out ball. Secura, so they'll have to try and disrupt him. Will the All Blacks? He's second overall in the Rugby Championship behind Eben Netzebeth. Juan Martin Gonzalez, I mentioned his tackling. He's the top tackler in the entire competition, so that's what he does. And Lavanini is second. And Lavanini's actually got his discipline right at the moment, so he's a big human being. If he can keep his nose clean, he's an absolute, valuable player to have. It's only when he, sees a bit of the red mist that things go a bit haywire. But Cheika seems to have him operating pretty well. Team-wise, the Argentinians proved themselves pretty vulnerable to conceding maul tries in that first game against the Wallabies, where they scored 3. Then they shored that up in the second game, where they didn't concede any. And also, it's interesting, the All Blacks don't really go for maul tries that much. I don't think they've scored a maul try all year. So whether or not the All Blacks kind of shift focus and try to dominate up front will be an interesting one to see. And Argentina actually upped their kicking game in that final game against the Wallabies. They've been one of the lowest kind of kicking percentage teams in terms of kicking from hand, kicking for territory, of all the teams in the competition and all the teams in World Rugby, like in the July test. They just didn't kick it that much, but it was a definite tactical switch where they kicked a lot more against the Wallabies in that last game, and the Wallabies back three was at absolute 6s and 7s. So the All Blacks back three, you'd think, are pretty well prepared for some incoming ball from what they saw over in South Africa. But they will have to be careful because they won't want to see what happened to Australia happen to them. In terms of the All Blacks, it was also a weird one. Like, they upped their offload game massively in that last game in Joburg. They offloaded like 15 times. Prior to that, it was about 8, I think, the most we'd seen in a game. In other games, they've had more ball, made more overall passes. So the All Blacks really backing themselves. And when you look at some of the guys who are the top offloaders, it's your Whitelock, it's Taukei'aho, it's Savea. Like, it's the forwards that are quite happy to check them off. Moonga and Aaron Smith too, but it's the forwards who are like your top offloading guys. So keeping that ball alive certainly worked well in that last game. And interestingly, that game where the All Blacks offloaded the most this year is where they turned over the least ball. So the handling was just better. I'm not sure that's a coachable thing, whether you tell your players just don't drop the bloody ball, but it seemed to work. They were playing with absolute confidence in that last game. So we'll see if they kind of keep the ball alive as much as they did in that last game, or whether they play it a bit more safe. But despite that, they still can't score in the first 20 minutes, the All Blacks. They've not managed it in any of their 5 games this year, whereas the Argentinians scored 13 in the first game against the Wallabies where they went on to lose, and 14 in the game where they went on to win. I think they averaged like 9 points across their 5 games this year. Remember, 3 against Scotland. So the Argentinians certainly a team that's been coming out of the blocks quickly against the teams they've been facing under Michael Cheika. Whereas the All Blacks have, as I said, failed to score a point in 5 games opening stanzas. So that's certainly one they'll want to turn around. You would think if the Pumas are going to get their first ever away win in New Zealand, you'd want to, pile on some points early and really put that mental pressure on the All Blacks guys to chase the game. But, we'll see. Most recent 5 games, it's mostly the All Blacks. We've got that first ever win for Argentina over the All Blacks back in 2020. That was 25-15 in Sydney. But the other 4, all New Zealand wins. But interestingly, none of these last 5 were played in New Zealand. You've got one in Argentina back in 2019 where it was 20 points to 16. Pretty close win for the All Blacks. Every other game played in Australia. You've got a couple of nillings there, 38-0, 39-0. So the average score is like 30 points to 11. The All Blacks tend to win over the last 5 games by around about 20 points, and that is kind of what the predictions are. The bookies have got the All Blacks by 22, and the Rugby Forecast algorithm says by 20. So big-time favourites, the All Blacks. Last game in New Zealand was 2018. That was in Nelson. That was 46-24. So kind of going with that theme of approximately 20-point wins. But, we'll see. The Rugby Championship is totally even at the moment. Every team with a win and a loss, like I mentioned. There's a lot to like about it. We will see how the teams go this weekend down in Christchurch. It's going to be an interesting one to see the return of Pablo Matera for all those Crusaders fans who have been cheering him on earlier in the year. But, you guys let me know your thoughts. How do you reckon this one is going to go? Can you see the Pumas making history or the All Blacks just going to be too good like they have been every other time they've played the Pumas here in NZ? You guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.